Definitely, there are many talking points that we can go over in the next panel discussions, in talks, in private and in public. I love the part that reputation matters and make sure not to lose it. I think that sometimes is underestimated, and that must be taken care of, especially if you are working with the defense sector. But right now, we have heard the trends. We have seen the way where Europe is going. We've ridden the wave of inspiration. But like it or not, success is fueled by financing from investors. The question is, how do they feel? How do they look at deep tech? What are their expectations for them to open up their wallets for you? Well, you are in luck and you are in the right place because we have the best venture capitalists and industry leaders here today for our panel discussion. So I hope you help me welcome on the stage, first of all, moderating this talk. He's the managing director at Ilcedo Ventures and the founder of several innovation platforms connecting global tech with startups from Asia to Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome on the stage Mr. Adam Juhász. Welcome, Adam. Nice to see you again here on our stage.
Thank you very much.
Whichever seat pleases you, go right ahead.
I love all of them.
Oh.
Can I try?
You can try it. We have time. I will introduce the rest of the speakers. You try out all the seats. Joining him on the stage, the early stage investor at Plug and Play Ventures with a background in industrial engineering focused on deep tech and innovation with over 15 investments under his belt. Let's welcome on the stage Mr. Leonardo Rocchetti. There it is. Nice to see you back on deep tech. Well, you can try it out, whatever pleases you. Let's welcome on the stage, she's the partner at the Commercialization Reactor Fund with over 20 years of executive experience overseeing nearly 50 deep tech startups and leading most investment decisions. Let's welcome on the stage Miss Ilona Golchaka. Welcome, Ilona. And last but not least, let's welcome him back on the stage. He's the Senior International Project and Innovation Consultant at Hello Tomorrow, shaping deep tech ecosystems globally through government collaboration, strategic positioning, and innovation-driven partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alberto Garcia Picazo, welcome. Welcome back. The stage is yours. Thank you. Thank you for not leaving me hanging.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome this distinguished lineup of speakers. We're going to have some fun today, of course. Deep Tech Atelier was already kicked off with a couple of exceptional keynote speeches from the President, Economic Minister, and also the Director General of the Investment and Development Agency for Latvia. Our speakers earlier also set the bar very high, so we will make a maximum effort to match that energy and match that inspiration and share some insights. It's my pleasure to welcome Leonardo, Ilona, and also Alberto in this panel discussion. And just to kick off this discussion, I want to start with a real cheeky question. Let's imagine that all of you are high net worth individuals. You have 100 million euro in the top drawer. You can invest in anything you want. You need to invest it into deep tech. So my question is to you, where would you put your money? But there's one rule. You cannot tell me that you would just take the money and retire. You do have to invest. Let's start at the far corner, maybe with Alberto.
Yes, maybe can I start going a bit through what I was explaining during the opening keynote, basically, and the vision that we had at Hello Tomorrow and why we decided to create Deep Red Ventures over the past few years. First of all, I would start looking into our Deep Tech Pioneer Network, and I'm going to explain you a bit how do we select actually the startups that are part of this network. We mainly focus on impact to change the future in order to solve the toughest world challenges, focusing on human and planetary health. So I would focus on something that is really drastic revolution and has the high potential to solve what's going to come in the next few years, because it's what we need, and that's what I put my bet.
Fantastic. So directly investing into impact startups. That's the answer. Ilona?
Yes, I would definitely not overemphasize any sector over one another. I would stay focused on deep tech venture building, which I believe is something that should be more emphasized. It is growing as a trend, and I deeply believe that we need to support deep tech founders and we need to work with them hand in hand. But still, if we are thinking about the sectors, let's say my preferred ones, taking into account that we are putting more and more satellites in the space, I think transportation there and, let's say, connections of all the vehicles somewhere outside our Earth is something that is interesting. This is number one. Number two, again, a trend which is maybe not very much explored. These are AI agents, which is kind of popular nowadays, but we need to understand how to use them in all the areas of our life. But once again, as an investor, I would certainly diversify, which is a logical thing, but that's probably the start of the conversation from my side.
Okay, that's a smart approach. Diversification. You also mentioned a couple of interesting verticals, but then you did mention that you would put your money into funds or venture investing through different vehicles. Venture studios, maybe?
Venture building, yeah.
Venture
there are
building
different
in general.
models, yeah, and I have one specific in mind, but yeah, venture building.
Fantastic. Leonardo?
First of all, I like to say that I'm lucky because nobody said AI. So I would say that AI can be like the first answer. Now, jokes aside, I would say that, of course, it depends the network you can rely on. So I think that today we are living in a time where agency is very important as a skill. So, and I think that the startup approach that came from California and kind of like spread out has a mindset like everywhere, like makes early stage investing like really appealing for everyone. So, and I think that also like many like scientists, many PhDs, like they are starting like testing the idea like to become founders. I think like this is a very like common thing like in the US. So in the US many scientists that have this dream. I hope that, and I see that in Europe, this is kind of like more and more frequent also here. So I would say that if I'm a high net worth individual that also like wants to give back also to the community, so like early stage investing is a way to make this happen. And also I think that, so in specifically in Europe here we have like a lot of brain power that we can get into motions. For building like the new economies. I think that today there are many challenges. First of all, like the climate change, even if kind of like the word climate tech has faded away like in the as a buzzword, so we are still like living this. So and also as Ilona was mentioning, like we are launching more and more satellites on space, so and there are like new economies that are like building on top of it. So now and there are companies like SpaceX that prove to value like more than 100 billion like as a private company. So I think the opportunity there are many.
Fantastic. It's a very long list of targets that you three are giving us and giving the audience. We had our fun, so let's get a little bit deeper into this topic. Leonardo, you started unwrapping a very interesting angle on this discussion, and I also want to echo the theme of this panel discussion, which is the mood of investors and expectations regarding investment into the deep tech space, and you started talking about the US and European Union comparison, right? So I would like to start with two questions. First question for you, Leonardo, and then Alberto. Please give us your perspective on the US-European, place your answer into the US-European context, but also give us a perspective, a Hello Tomorrow and Plug and Play perspective on that moods and expectations from an investment point of view.
So I think that so like living so before now like just for the audience so I've been in Plug and Play, like in investing role for more than 4 years. So, and I spent like half of my time in Europe and half of my time like in the US. So I think that some ecosystems are very difficult like to replicate. Like I think that living in San Francisco is like a very like unique experience for me, and you see like founders helping each other. There's like an entire community like pushes you like forward. It's like it's a really as a cultural experience. Like first of all, I would say. I think that what this in the deep tech context, like in the US, they were able like to to have some companies where there was like a strong entrepreneurial mindset. So and that mix, and they gave us the expertise like to be like hardware and software like capabilities like Palantir, like Anduril, like SpaceX. And you see like that in these kind of like companies, when you speak to the founders, like spinning out from this from these companies, you see like a very strong ambition, like to disrupt the status quo and not having like the fear like to go big in like a new like completely like new industries. So like the sentiment is that I think that the venture-backed companies created like the new economy, and so the sentiment in the US is to build like and still like foster like this wave and still like backing early stage founders like to build like new industries. So I think that's this is we are understanding more and more like also in Europe. Or in Europe is coming like have some ecosystems that are very mature and are on top of the worldwide, like London, Paris, like and also the Baltics for like the number of unicorns like per million of capital. So I think we're going there, and I'm very optimistic.
Okay, thank you very much for those points. Alberto, maybe a little bit on the European perspective, then also a Hello Tomorrow perspective on that.
I think the European, within the European perspective, maybe in Europe we are a bit more risk averse in the sense of like supporting deep tech. Timings are longer, investment usually it's higher, and to get like a return on investment you need to wait like for longer years. And this is something that European investors are starting to understand and getting more confidence. One of the main reasons is we see actually public institutions backing really strong on proving the technologies for European like through the EAC, but also like national agencies like LIA, or for example in France, BPI France are actually pushing a lot and giving like this shield in order to de-risk for the investors. But that's like it's a question of time, because investing in deep tech actually takes a lot of like technology expert that sometimes is missing in traditional VC funds. So this would be my perspective on what's going on in Europe at the moment, and I think it's not that much of a problem at the earliest stage when we are putting like small budgets. Our next challenge is like how actually do we create unicorns in Europe? Again, the EIC with a STEP program actually is going strong on it, and we need actually role models. Because I believe that scientists in Europe and science entrepreneurs are still like more scientists than entrepreneurs, while in the US maybe they are like more entrepreneurs and a bit less on the science part. So we always say like US people sell things best. In Europe, basically, we will be selling things in a language that is not our own, which is like just a first barrier. It seems really simple, but it's actually the case. And you will be surprised, for example, how much time takes for a deep tech company actually to introduce like a real business person within their business development team. So yeah.
Fantastic, very good points. And I'm kind of hearing a common theme, a little bit of an oversimplification and over-exaggeration, but it sounds to me that you guys in the USA, you build, scale, celebrate. Us here in Europe, we discover and then celebrate, right? Discovery. It's an unfair observation. But Ilona, the reason why I started with Alberto and Leonardo is because I'm saving a very special follow-up question for you. And the reason why I'm saving this for you is because with commercialization, Reactor as a partner, and also working and operating in Latvia and in the Baltic region more broadly, you are in the prime position or best position to answer the next question. That discussion, US-Europe, how would you bring Latvia into that? What's the Latvian perspective? What are the strengths and what's missing when it comes to deep tech investing?
All right, but I will start probably taking from Alberto's perspective, mentioning that, let's say, we have lots of scientists in Europe, including Latvia, and we discover, as you mentioned, yeah? But we need to put more focus on commercialization. And there are different types of models. Let's say you can retrain scientists to become entrepreneurs, but you also can bring them together with entrepreneurial people and they become co-founders. At the same time, they can stay in the lab and continue developing great science. So there are different routes to that. We are following the second one, and it has proven to be successful. And we believe that we are doing, by the way, this in Latvia. We are helping both Latvian scientists and Baltic scientists to meet entrepreneurial people and to start off their deep tech ventures in order to commercialize what's being developed in the university, what is great for Europe, and to help it grow. Latvian ecosystem has tremendously grown in the recent years. There are more players helping founders to grow. There are funding instruments available at different stages of the development. Of course, we can do more. You mentioned that, let's say, early stage is not a problem. Yes, maybe if we are talking across Europe, but sometimes, let's say, these first steps, when founders, when startups need very little money in order to validate their initial ideas, sometimes it is missing. Sometimes it's hard for them to get those funding. This is number one. Number two, I think the speed of actually development is so high nowadays. We need to actually bring in industry faster. And this is something that actually can accelerate the growth. Because you have great science, then you have an idea of where you can apply this science. You need an industry to validate. And we need to have this kind of loop of validations, changes, again, testing, until they arrive to a perfectly fit product that market needs. I think this is something that we need to focus more on, this kind of industry startup collaborations. This brings me to the idea of, let's say, this technology push and market pull approach. Yeah? We at Commercialization Reactor mostly focus on technology push because we work a lot with scientists, with universities. We help them commercialize. But at the same time, we also need to think about more this market pull. And ideally, we need to kind of integrate both of the approaches. And this is something that we are working on a lot. Yeah? And we are trying to connect our startups with vertical accelerators, with big industrial groups, so that founders can actually see that route and they can validate something that they imagined as a product faster. So that would be my answer.
Fantastic. You were covering quite a lot of ground, two major themes. I want to follow up on the second part of it, and I'm very happy that you brought this up, this technology push and market pull. In the European Union, we are talking about a single market, but in reality, especially when it comes to innovation technology, especially in heavily regulated verticals like healthcare-related innovation, for example, or biotech, right? We cannot really talk about a single market. We are talking about 27 countries and 27 different jurisdictions, which slows down the scaling of these technologies and solutions. And then we have the USA, of course, which is really a single market. So I want to open up this question to all three of you. And my question is, how do you think these market entry barriers can be removed? What can we do from a private sector side of it? And maybe if you are brave enough and you already had your coffee this morning, then what would you advise to decision makers from the public domain, policymakers? What would be the first signature? Which policy paper should be signed first? Maybe I start here with Leonardo.
I mean, I'm not an expert, so like, but I found like very valuable like the initiative that was kind of brought by Andres Klinger, if I'm not mistaken at their name, about the EU Inc. So having like a single legal entity like a Delaware C Corp, and I think this can be like very valuable as unifies the kind of like simplifies the path for founders. But I would like to stress the attention also like on the mindset. I think that one of the main reasons of the success of the Bay Area specifically is that there's no mentality barrier or cultural barrier to try like a solution from an early stage founder that is just starting, and then try the solution, see if it works, and then eventually like drop like the contract. Here like it takes much more time like to get into a decision, probably for budget reason, but I think that this slow down like the journey like from the start in terms of like validation, and this can be like something that we all can improve by being like more risk tolerant like towards like early stage founders.
Okay, this is a very good point, and you are absolutely right. The EU Inc. is a very popular and trending topic. And I don't want to water it down, and hats off to the team that actually brought forward this initiative. But the essence of EU Inc. is just making it easier to set up a company and the administration around it. So it cuts through red tape on day one or day zero, which is about 1% of what should be done, and there are additional market entry barriers. So I'm really curious, Ilona, Alberto, what do you think beyond EU Inc., beyond just the registration process of companies, what else should be removed from the way?
Maybe I can start with regulatory issues. Yeah, and this is something that I'm usually monitoring across, let's say, the portfolio that we have. We have several medtech startups. They develop great ideas, they develop then great products, then they need to get this approval in order to be on the market. And this takes ages. And this is something, again, that probably we all should be working all in collaboration, understand kind of public and private perspective, because, let's say, the cycles of the development, the speed of the cycles increases. And regulatory also should follow this speed. Otherwise, you develop something and then you wait 3-4 years until you can be in the market, I think in the best case scenario, and we all wait. During this time, new tech will emerge, because we also all understand what was deep tech, let's say, 5 years ago. It's not deep tech anymore. That's already a normal company. And the concept of deep tech evolves, let's say, with every new discovery. And this speed actually also should be replicated in the regulatory area. So that's my take on this.
Okay, so regulation, Alberto?
I think I have to agree with the regulation. One is like the main barrier for Europe. It is not possible that we can hear today that some, mostly on the medtech fields, that they develop the technology here and they decided to move to the US to get approved by the FDA because they can approach like a bigger market, where actually they have like enough marketing in Europe, within Europe, because it's like such a conundrum of paperwork, like having to approve into different countries. And the key maybe to do so, it's also not just to put the weight on the administration in itself, that is, of course would like to do that, but it's a lot of negotiations internally among our European countries or the startups. But maybe a hint on my side would be like bring the big corporations that actually would like to invest, would like to collaborate with European technologies without having to look into these borders. So once you put all the players into the picture, not just the startups, but also like the governments, big corporations in Europe, big international corporations, maybe it gets things more agile, and there is like no more excuse anymore to put this as a priority in the political agendas, I will say.
Maybe a common platform, including private sector stakeholders,
Exactly.
ecosystem and venture builders, and also the regulatory side to sit down and see, first of all, how to cut through red tape. Secondly, and probably more importantly, how to create those sandboxing environments for deep tech, where you can test your solution and validate your solution and move your product closer to the market quicker and before the the licensing process actually starts. So it's very good points. And Alberto, if you don't mind, I would like to circle back to you and bring something into this discussion that kind of grabbed my attention when I was listening to your keynote earlier today. First of all, congratulations on the partnership with Deep Tech Atelier. But one of the slides you were talking about how close to 40% or over 40% of R&D institutions and top universities are in Europe, yet only 5% of them start deep tech ventures. Can we revisit that and unwrap it? Can you share us a little bit more insight? And I would also be very curious to hear how Hello Tomorrow would like to boost that number or address that issue.
It's not a question of a starting deep tech ventures. It's of course more than 5% creating deep tech ventures. It's just among the top European unicorns, only 5% are actually deep tech today, which I think it should not be the case. And I believe it's because like this barrier to scale in Europe, scaling in Europe, it's a real challenge in order to get funding. In order to validate our technology, in order to access like the global market. When you are talking about like scaling deep technologies, you cannot look at a single country market. You need to look at the regional and international level at a time. When you are talking with the scale labs in Europe, they usually have like offices in 4 or 5 countries around, not just Europe, but also the US, the Asia Pacific region. You cannot think locally, you need to think like really globally in order to be able to scale your product, because your clients will be all over the world. And that is, that's what I was like mentioning at that time, basically, that how we make sure that this number increase. What are we missing today for scale-ups actually to remain in Europe and to thrive in Europe?
Fantastic. Ilona, if you don't mind, I would like to twist that original question a little bit because you are an IP commercialization specialist. So this should go to you and the answer should come from you. When it comes to IP commercialization, especially university IP commercialization, any kind of IP coming out from a scientific lab, R&D institution, and so on, what's missing? What are the biggest obstacles for that transition of scientific discovery into product to a successful venture or a company? What's your experience? And which area we should focus a little bit more on?
Well, there are several things that are missing, but let's say one main part that I would name is entrepreneurship. Because science is coming from the university, and university is not an entrepreneurship vehicle, which is definitely a normal thing, yeah? And we all know that scientists are great in the domain of science, but they are not necessarily great in the domain of entrepreneurship. And we shouldn't be, let's say, transforming them into entrepreneurs if they don't want to. But as I mentioned in the beginning, there are different paths here, and there could be great examples of scientists commercializing their science and succeeding greatly. But we also should help those scientists who are actually willing to stay on the path of research. And we need to give them instruments, how they can bring their science to market, because this is their greatest motivation, actually. They want to see what they have discovered on the market, that people using this. And we need to give them instruments. And these instruments are all around entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurs are thinking of the application of the technology. They are going and talking to industry. They are attracting investments. They are collecting the team around what is missing, what kind of competences are needed. So I think this is kind of the main thing that is needed. But of course, you need to have an ecosystem around, you need to have funding, and it's not just investments. A lot of public funding is needed as we are talking about deep tech and long cycles of development. And of course, as I already mentioned, this industry collaboration is critical. Unless you have somewhere to validate, you will be just kind of walking around and talking that you have something great, but you need to apply it, test it, upgrade it, until you arrive to a perfect solution that is needed.
Thank you for that. Very good points. And you are absolutely correct. Science has a price tag, but not all scientific discovery translates into products, commercial products, and then successful ventures. But deep tech has the kind of ability to produce solutions for the public sector as well. Healthcare, again, is a very good example, right? Not everything is commercialized there, but it benefits us all because it's because of our health. And I agree with you, public-private funding has to go hand in hand when it comes to IP commercialization. Now, Leonardo, I'm going to give you one of two options because we are reaching the final stretch of this. So either the American angle and approach on IP commercialization, or something from the plug-and-play playbook, how you guys approach IP commercialization. You can answer one or the other, and it's your choice.
I mean, I think that the answer can be answered together. So, like, I want to recall, like, kind of like Ilona on this. I think that what we need is like our founders. So, like, we have great scientists, but at the end of the day, so like everything comes with the mind of like a group of people. So that so the ecosystem, of course, like helps like to validate this. Like it gives the culture, the mentality, like the funding, and also like the expertise. But at the end of the day, it's the founder that is taking the risk and making this happen, right? So at Plug and Play, so I would say that we help like to de-risk this. So because like Plug and Play is on top of being like an early stage investor where we invest in pre-seed and seed companies, like in the early days of the journey, they probably have in the deep tech space, some companies they have just maybe like a design of the hardware technology that they want to develop on a pitch deck, or like few lab proof. Mm-hmm. So we are bringing them like in front of like big corporates and decision makers that actually like we're able like to bring like a technology like in the same industry at scale. And so with this like as an investor, for us it's easy to understand the easy to validate and to understand like the market need. So and for founders give them the chance like to interact with someone that on a complex organization made it happen. And so that I would say that's why like the ecosystem is important, and that's why corporations also play a role. So and our platform is a facilitating for this, like because facilitate the interaction with the big corporates.
Thank you very much for that. As we are approaching the end of this panel discussion, instead of closing remarks, I would like to invite you to do something else. We have budding innovators and entrepreneurs in the audience, but also your peers, investors, venture builders. If you would suggest one thing to them, what would that be? You have 90 seconds to address the audience with one suggestion. Alberto?
Yes, I would recommend basically to focus on impact, be a bit less risk-averse. It's important that you understand the technologies that you will be investing in. We have at Hello Tomorrow actually a really strong due diligence process with our technical team. If you don't have the expertise in-house, ask abroad because people will be able to help you. And also see always like the proof of traction. Institutions, national institutions, and the EAC are actually backing up the best of deep technologies that are at a really, really early stage level. Take that as a seal of excellence, as ensuring like the investment that you will be doing.
Thank you very much. Ilona?
Yes, I would like to focus on the entrepreneurs here in the audience and the ones that are listening our online, and to actually encourage them to start off their deep tech ventures, because we know that there is a lot of great research across European universities, and we know that only, I think, 40% of them are being commercialized. So there is great potential for us to grow our European economy. So be brave, go out there, try to seek partners, try to seek interesting technologies, be creative enough to imagine where you can apply those technologies, form teams, and then collaborate with investors, with industry, and with public sector in order to actually launch the ventures and become successful, to bring also success to Europe.
Thank you very much. Leonardo?
Yeah, I'm very excited about European tech. So I think that we have incredible brain power. So we have incredible skill set. So and we can build great things. I would like to encourage everyone, given that this today is the time where it's very easy like to launch a company, kind of like from a technology perspective, like to code, so that there's with all this era and wave of AI. So this is helping a lot of founders like to fill the gap, their skill set with AI. So and the biggest skill that everyone should have is like agency. And I think like here in the audience, I'm sure that there's a lot of like entrepreneurial attitude on this. So I would say that it's the best time to build, and I would like to encourage everyone like to start their own company.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that final round of closing notes or suggestions to your peers and budding entrepreneurs in the audience. I enjoyed our discussion. I hope that the audience did too. These are the kind of panel discussions where I would just love to open up the floor for a Q&A. This is not part of our agenda, unfortunately. But what I would like to ask from you is a huge round of applause for our speakers today. Alberto, Ilona, and Leonardo, thank you very much for today.
And of course, to our moderator, Adam, as well. Round of applause, well deserved. Thank you very much.
And half a round of applause to the moderator as well. Of course, the speakers are available if you would like to follow up with them. I encourage you to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. A round of applause. Thank you for being a part of our opening session.